Welcome everyone to this episode of Manufacturing Talk Radio. I'm Tim Grady. I'm here with the founder, Lew Weiss, who's also the president of All Metals and Forge Group. If you're looking for open die forgings or seamless rolled rings for industry, check them out at steelforge.com. Joining us today is Frank Kenny. Frank is the Director of Industry Solutions for Clio. And Frank, I don't really know what that means, so share with our audience and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Lou, for having me on. Always a pleasure to see you guys. Big fans. We were just talking about the Yellow Jackets. And by the way, Lou, I go to your website when I want to be comforted by just the bending of hot metal. And all of the video. That's a comforting, kind of relaxing thing for me. Tim, to answer your question, I work at an integration company, integration cloud company named Clio, and we specialize in bringing the shippers, the carriers, and all of the partners together in a supply chain arrangement. So the shippers and the carriers. We are the folks that make those connections digitally happen. So whether you're using good old-fashioned EDI or you're using something that is very, very modern and innovative, like APIs and those types of things that we see companies doing, I look after what is the market doing, where's the pain points, and how can we best position Clio's technologies, products, and services to address those needs. So I'm the glue that holds it all together.
That sounds fascinating. Let me just talk about shipping. When you talk about shipping, are you talking about domestic or global, anywhere?
Yes, the answer is yes, because we have to, or because we touch everyone around the globe in so many of the carriers, whether it air cargo or maritime or whatever the case is, there are communications that are happening that include dock operations, right? That include all of the drayage and all of those systems and all of those providers finally going out to either rail or going out over the road, and then starting to get into some of the short hops, the warehousing. All of those systems have to interconnect so that the equipment is where the equipment needs to be, so that there is some type of visibility and some type of planning, everything from simple gate appointments to something that is more fundamental, like container droppage on rail or on port operations. So we're constantly monitoring for need and for speed and for agility, all of the movements of things that are happening to ensure that if companies need to connect to new partners to get things done faster, which is what happened during the pandemic, everyone got new partners to try to get things done faster. We were very responsible for helping those companies connect to those new partners and ensure that things happen digitally, which of course ensures, the speed, the predictability, the consistency, and really keeping that error rate low. And that's what our technology is responsible for. So in a nutshell, yeah, it's global. I spend a lot of my time, obviously, concentrating on North America, but I do track, given some of the challenges in Europe, I am tracking some of the logistics challenges that just seem to hit back-to-back: Brexit, pandemic, now the crisis in the Ukraine. I mean, it's just back-to-back, and that's impacting how goods are being delivered to the market. And that's also impacted by how companies connect to each other.
All right, I have a question.
Sure.
Because I want to make it clear for our audience, because right now it's not clear to me. So you're going to clear it up.
Yep.
Your organization, it's a software development, software solution?
Yep, it's a software company, yes.
Okay, so if I'm a manufacturer and I need to have transportation, logistics, trucking, rail, air for North America and South America.
Mhm.
And I can't keep track of all of that.
Mhm.
So your software, you put all this goo together. And I, the manufacturer, I can look at my dashboard and I can see what's where it's going, when it's going, how it got picked up, when it's going to be delivered, and so on and so forth. Is that correct?
That's partially correct. In your factory, your dashboard is based off of the things you make. And you're always, Lou, you're always looking at the purchase orders that you get, and you're always looking at the means that you are shipping them out. And so we are directly responsible for ensuring those purchase orders get to you. And we are directly responsible for ensuring that when you tender a load so that someone can pick it up and carry it away, that connectivity always happens, that connection happens.
I'm thinking in terms of my company, All Metals and Forge Group.
Mhm.
Right, so we get purchase orders from companies.
Mhm.
We go through a very arduous system and program of approving it and getting it into the queue. That's the big word this week. It's the British word for the queue.
We're gonna milk that for another year. We're gonna just say it, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we haven't done it for 70 years, so now we're, so it goes through a very arduous system. We then put it into production, and then we have to arrange for the logistics for where it's going, whether it's air, boat, or truck.
Right.
All of this goes in, and I'm sort of repeating myself, but I think I'm coming from a different angle. All of this goes into your software.
Right. Or all of it is facilitated by our software. So in your example, Lou, how do you get that purchase order? Is it a fax? Is it someone calling? Is it something digital that's arriving and it just shows up? What we do is we help digitize all of that so it just shows up, so that you don't have people with fat fingers entering orders, so that you're not reliant on a fax coming through or an email coming through. We allow those things to happen through digital means, and we will take those purchase orders, turn them into what your systems can understand, and push them through. So it's absolutely transparent to you.
Okay, so when when our customer sends us a purchase order, not by fax, because
Right.
nobody uses fax anymore.
You'd
That
be
was
surprised.
dead and gone. In our world, it's dead and gone. I have to argue with my marketing department. I want the fax number there. No, no one uses it. Just put it in. Anyway, so do the customers, how do you get the information from the client?
So we connect with your partners. So your partners may say, I need to buy 100 reams of something or 100 pieces of something. And they will send this purchase order to us. We will turn it into whatever your system understands, and we will present it to your system, which will pick it up and process it.
Can it be done slightly differently? Can it be done where we get the purchase order and we send it to you?
You can take you can receive the purchase order, you can send it to us, and we'll send it back to you and transform it to wherever you need. So however you intend on doing it, and the reason why we are sitting in the middle usually is to give you some abstraction, because what if you're not ready for it? Or what if you're only looking for them once a day, but your partners are sending them all day? So we can hold them and queue them and then send them to you in order when you decide to get them.
I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah. It's a system that has been designed to remove the error and do some validation so that you process things a lot quicker. And so when you're more so on the, especially when you're in the consumer end of the market, but nowadays actually your business is the key critical business, because we are starting to build things like we've never built them before, or like they haven't been built since generations with infrastructure. It's incredibly important that when someone is buying from you, that you are addressing it just from an inventory perspective and meeting those expectations. And especially if you're talking about not only taking the orders and making them, if you're responsible for getting your carrier and making sure that they get loaded up and pulled and taken where they need to be taken, that whole process needs to be digitized, but it needs to be very visible to you. And we provide all of that for you.
Okay, so we, All Metals and Forge Group, and I don't want to make this an episode about All Metals and Forge, but we are an ISO 9001 and AS 9100 registered company.
Mhm.
We also are in the process of going for the NIST 800-171 cybersecurity program. You're an outside vendor. You would be an outside vendor to us, correct?
Right.
All right. So, are you familiar with NIST 800-171?
Vaguely. And one of the reasons being is because we handle data, and we handle data for critical companies and public institutions. Let's just say we adhere to SOX type 2 compliance, which requires us every 6 months to go through an arduous certification process around how we deal with data, how we manipulate data, and how we ensure that all of those transactions are perfectly auditable and very traceable, et cetera, as well as managed and monitored. So we have to, the process that we have to go through to ensure that we don't have things like cyber attacks or cybersecurity attacks, where your company, Lew, may employ 5-10 people on a security team to ensure that we have dozens upon dozens of people doing nothing but ensuring the integrity of our environment, because we work on behalf of many of the names and brands and companies that both businesses buy from, but also that consumers buy from.
Okay, the Department of Defense and the Department of Energy are basically the two so far that are NIST 800-171. They're in, that's their spec.
The mandate. Yep, the mandate.
Yeah. And they've been trying to get that functional for the last 5 years. And they made it so tough that companies wouldn't bother with it because it was impossible to be compliant. So they've now started backing off. Supposedly, this December 31st is for real, that if you don't do business with, if you don't have NIST, you're not going to be able to do business with the Department of Defense or Department of Energy. I wouldn't bet on it because this will be the 5th year in a row, but it's something that you might want to take a deeper dive look at, as we are. And actually, we do have it on our website about it. And customers have asked us about it as to what and how. So there is a level of interest as a result of that.
What we see, and where we see these types of specifications and NIST and some of these things, we're seeing it from the manufacturers in the market that have yet to digitize any aspect of their infrastructure. So in a kind of a ditch effort to bring some type of visibility and consistency, which is really, especially from a defense contracting perspective, the continual movement throughout supply chain for the defense departments and the departments of energy are so critical. And given everything that we've seen in the last 3 years, things that no one would expect to ever see in their lifetime, given just how fragile the supply chains have proven to be, given how dependent so much of the supply chain is outside of the United States, it makes absolute sense that the DoD and the DOE are implementing visibility and traceability and auditability and some type of predictability in all manners of their own supply chains, because those supply chains can't afford to get interrupted. And we talked a little bit about this with the CHIPS Acts and the CHIPS Act and some of the other mandates that were coming through. So while I think in the past, Lew, you've seen, okay, you have up until next year, I really think that you're going to start to see some enforcement of it, just because the public is very, very much aware of the fragility of the supply chain. They see it in their lives when they go into the grocery store, and eggs are now 3 times what they cost, because the fuel to get them in and the energy to create the feed for the animals and everything else in between. Now that folks understand the fragility of that supply chain, it is, people are asking questions. Well, what does that mean for, our defense and the defense industry? Are they having as hard of a time getting a hold of steel, getting a hold of all of the components to build all of those things that they build? And what does that mean to national security if we're delayed because there's a bolt that comes from East Asia that is only made in East Asia, and that's the linchpin to building, a massive, tank or massive drones or whatever the case is. And I would expect that you're going to start to see institutions really getting serious about certain elements of these mandates, because so much focus is on supply chain, right or wrong or indifferent. So much focus is there, and that's what we see. That's why we see some of the FMC emergency orders happening, with the port operations. That's why we see the CHIPS Act and some of those other things. This current administration is talking supply chain and is bringing that conversation to the family table.
6 months ago, no one ever heard of supply chain.
I will share a story with you and Tim. I have been in technology and integration technology for 25, almost going on 30 years, probably a little older than I look. And I remember in the first days in the March timeframe of March 2020, when pandemic full swing and everyone was making the run on toilet paper. And my mother called me, and my mother's one of 3 people in my life that actually call me Frankie and get away with it. And she said, Frankie, where's all the toilet paper? And I had a great conversation with her, is that, Ma, they made plenty of toilet paper. The problem is that getting it from point to point is proven a little difficult as people are running out there. But you're going to be okay. There's plenty of toilet plate paper and bleach and those things. It's just a matter of getting them. And she says, you're so smart about this stuff. And I go, Ma, I've been doing this for the last 23 years. And she said to me, oh, that's what you do? And then, and so my mother now knows what I do because of the run up on toilet paper. Guys, I'm not proud of it, but it's a win.
Listen, I have the same story. My mother, who had passed at 96, I think she was in her late 80s, and we got into a discussion one night, and she used that same line. oh, that's what you do.
Exactly. That's what it was. And again, that's how my family and friends, I went from being that guy that we don't really know what he does, but he's nice because he buys everybody a drink when he comes to the bar, to that's the supply chain guy. Ask him. So that's
I thought you brought everybody toilet
that's what
paper.
COVID did for me. So
Hey, Timmy, you there?
I'm still hanging in here. I was going to wait for Frank to share with us how people can get a hold of him and where to find Cleo on the internet.
sure. So it's Cleo, and that's CLEO.com. And I'm available through that website. Lots of videos, and not even videos that you got to put in an email. You can just watch, like Lew's videos, right? Where, and albeit, like I said, some of us, Lew, if you're getting people watching your videos at 11 o'clock at night, it's because I'm trying to sleep, and there's something that is just absolutely satisfying about machine shaping hard steel that just puts that really does it for me. But you have the opportunity to go to Cleo.com and see what we do, hear from some really big companies that a lot of us do business with, as they talk about how they use our technology and how they've used our technology for differentiation. And they've used our technology to become very, very successful in these disruptive times. So that's the nutshell. That's how you get a hold of us, Tim.
Okay, and are you also by chance a writer?
Well, hey, I've been known to write a little bit. However, that type of writing tends to go nowhere, but some folder. But I do contribute to some publications. You can probably find me in Forbes, and you can find me in the Washington Post and the Seattle Times and some other places I've had the luxury of working and writing for, as well as Supply Chain Dive and Freight Waves and some other places. So industry things, but like I said, no one knew that I existed. And 3 years ago, the Washington Post, starts asking me about a whole bunch of stuff. So I've been somewhat blessed from that perspective. Yes.
Great. Well, Frank, we appreciate you being on Manufacturing Talk Radio. We love to talk to people who are in the manufacturing industry and helping the industry improve what it does. And
Yes.
You're right, there's been this whole evolution that has been compressed because of the pandemic.
Yes.
And now we all have to move faster to both play catch up and keep ahead of what's happening, particularly, as you said, with a fragile supply chain that's being rebuilt. So thanks for joining us and sharing, and we encourage people to go to Cleo.com.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Lew. This is fantastic. Would always welcome the opportunity to spend some time with you guys. Again, this has been absolutely fantastic. Big fans of you guys, and guys, keep up the good work. And I think right now, especially when we see supply chain related labor issues being solved right in the White House, this is just a good time to be focused on supply chain. So thanks for the work that you guys continue to do.
Thank you, Frank. And anything new comes up, a new technology, a new spin on your product, or whatever, give us a call, and we'll have you come back.
I absolutely appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
You now have acquired 10 points to your yellow jacket.
I will have Cleo make me up a canary yellow shirt with dark Cleo, just to kind of look like you handsome gentlemen. That's what I need to do.
Well, one day we'll tell you the story about canary yellow and Crayola. But that's another story.
That's another story. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. And while you're checking out Cleo.com, we encourage you to check out JacketMediaCo.com, where you'll find this episode and all the podcasts we produce. Once again, thank you for joining us on Manufacturing Talk Radio.